All right, guys, we are gonna get on the soapbox right now. Yesterday, I felt like shit. It was an awful, awful day. It was one of those days where I woke up, I felt terrible, I didn't want to get out of bed, I had no motivation, I was super stressed, super anxious, mentally not there, and just so down on myself. And it brought me to start thinking about two different things, okay? But first of all, I want you to know that it is okay to have days when you feel like shit, when you have shit days and it feels like everything is coming down around you and you just absolutely feel like you don't want to do anything. You don't want to roll out of bed. You don't want to get up and do anything for work. You don't want to do anything. It's okay to have those days. And there are people out there that say that it isn't, but I want to give you a caveat, all right? It's okay to have those days, but it's not okay to let them affect you. And so these two things that I thought about, just another thing is I am insanely grateful to have somebody by my side that is my biggest fan, that is my support mechanism, and he was the one who convinced me to feel better enough to literally step foot out of bed and go do whatever I needed to do that day. But it got me thinking a couple of things. And number one is, why the heck aren't people on platforms talking about their shit days? Why aren't people coming on here and they're sharing their down stories? And I'm not talking about every Joe Schmo coming on and sharing their sob stories with everybody. I'm talking about the ones that people look up to, right? You're having influencers and gurus coming on here every single day and sharing wisdom stories, and they're sharing wins, and they're saying, I just made a buku amount of bucks because I watched this webinar, I bought this course, or I built this funnel, right? Guys, I love the funnels, but okay, caveat. And they made like a buku $1 million. And so every normal person out there in the world is listening to them, and they're watching them being like, oh my gosh, I should be like that. That false picture of reality that makes everybody feel like they're insignificant because they don't feel like that every single day. Well, heads up, even those people have those shit days. They're just not showing you that they do. Those days are the days that build us. Those days are the days that no one likes to talk about because they're not beautiful and they don't sell. But this is what brought me to my other realization. Those people have those shit days, but the difference between them and us is that they didn't let those shit days get to them. They didn't let those shit days make them quit, right? And I want to ask you this. If you are having those shit days because you're an entrepreneur, you're trying to build something or make something of yourself, and you let that bad day affect you to the point where you just take that day as a break or you do nothing, right? You can't do that. You lost at that point. Those shit days are tests for you. Because I want to ask you this. If you were employed by somebody, you had a job, and one morning you woke up and you felt like shit and you didn't want to go to work and you just didn't show up, and they call you and ask you where you're at, and you're like, well, I'm on the beach right now because I just didn't want to come into work. I didn't feel like it. You probably won't have that job anymore. So what makes you think that as an entrepreneur? What gives you the right and the audacity to think that if you are working on building something, and you are that business at the beginning, right? You are that business. And what gives you the right to think that if you wake up one morning and you just don't feel like working or showing up, what makes you think that that business deserves to stick around? You are that business. And if you don't show up in that business, even if you feel like crap, that business is not going to show up. Right? Your clients or your future clients will just follow you right there because you just let that get a hold of you and you didn't show up, right? So my message to you is that you can have those days. You can have those terrible days. And please, don't think that something's wrong with you if you have awful days. But also don't let it make you quit. You cannot quit. If you let those days make you quit, you are losing. You are just proving to the world and whatever it is that's giving you those shit days that you aren't good enough to have that business established because you are letting that little thing affect you and your ability to show up. It is the people who show up even when they don't want to. It's those who don't quit even when they have the most feelings like they need to quit. Those are the ones who succeed because they build the one thing that no one teaches you to have out here, and that is resiliency. If you do not have resiliency, then you don't have a lot of things are going to be very difficult for you because you expect every single thing to be perfect and you don't know what to do when they're not. So that was my tangent for it's okay to have shit days, but don't let them keep you from showing up, and don't ever quit when you are in that situation. It's in those situations where you need to push even harder to get to where it is you want to be, and you use those shit days as fuel, and you use those shit days as motivation, and you use those shit days as your resiliency that's eventually going to get you to where you want to be. And I am going to tag him in these comments because I want to see if he responds, and I want to ask Gary Vaynerchuk what he does on days that he feels like shit, and hopefully he'll respond to me. So that's my tag to him to see if he will respond. And let me know what he does on the days if he feels like crap, so some people can feel better and see what a really big influencer does when they feel like absolute poop. So apologies that I dropped the S word like a million times. You can just not watch this if you're sensitive to that. Otherwise, get out there, crush it, and don't quit.